Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Between the Lines with Chris Curran. I'm your host, and today we speak with former Brockton High School, Northeastern and Bentley University alum, father, husband, cancer survivor, and a 2025 Pan Mass Challenge participant, which 100% of rider-raised dollars goes directly to Dana-Farber. My former kicker and practice buddy, PJ Branco.
How's it going, CC? It's so good to talk to you again, man.
Good, man. Good. When I was thinking about that and thinking about how much time we actually spent together on the football field, because I would say, honestly, you had a better chance of tackling someone than I did. But I think Columbo was like, you guys just kick the ball to each other.
Yeah, it's like, go to the other end of the field. Keep yourselves busy.
Yeah, just go stay busy. It worked out in the Super Bowl, though.
Hey, I loved it. It was a ton of fun, honestly. Like some absolutely great memories during that time. It was an incredible time of life.
Yeah. Oh man. Trying to think about all of those days and all of those practices, just being on the field, and that experience is just, it's different. Being on a football field for me was always different than being on a baseball field. Like the atmosphere for me just felt different, you know?
Interesting. And was that true throughout your career, or was it like just a high school thing for you?
Now, I mean, there's clear differences between high school and professionally, but maturity-wise, I would say in the early days of football on a Friday night when you had thousands of people come out, in comparison to a baseball game, I would almost say football was more, it just got you pumped up more.
Yeah.
It really did, because it was once a week. There was all the pressure. We were such a good team, where baseball is like 140 games in like 160 days. So you just got used to playing in front of thousands of people. It wasn't anything new. And for football, that was the first time I'd ever played in front of a crowd. People didn't line up to go to Little League baseball games. You know? So actually having fans other than your parents was something a little bit different. You know?
I mean, we were pretty spoiled at Brockton High with football games, and I mean, even just having the band alone, the band was a couple hundred kids, right? So even if we didn't have anyone sitting at the game, we at least had a couple hundred quote unquote fans, you know? So having at least hundreds of people there. I mean, there were games that we definitely had thousands, but playing in front of that type of crowd in high school was just wild to think about.
Yeah. I always hear it too, because I still hear, like, to this day, man, the band was better than the football team, and we were really good, but the band was just awesome.
Like, I know. And we never, like, we were always inside during halftime, so we never got to hear or watch like the halftime performance or anything, but it's true. Like even during games, I mean, the band would help keep us amped up because they were, you know, playing stuff before kickoff. They would always play like the drum roll up to kickoff and everything. And they're keeping the people in the game and everything while we're playing. So it was cool to have that sort of play off of one another where, you know, the band is helping us. We're kind of like kicking it back to them. But yeah, being a big high school, we were able to have our pick of the litter for the football team. So we definitely had some talent.
Oh yeah. About that, the band was like your intro, because they always did something when you were about to kick the ball. You know what I mean? If I was going back for punt return, it was nothing. It was nothing. Nobody was celebrating. They knew I was on the field for 6 seconds. Just don't fumble the ball.
As long as you're catching it and moving it upfield, that's what we care about, man.
That's really it, man. It's funny. But tell us a little bit about your athletic background.
Yeah. So I started with soccer. My dad was a soccer coach from, you know, before I was born. So when I was born, he was like, all right, I got a little boy, like he's playing soccer. That's what he's doing, right? So my dad's from Portugal. He's I'm first generation American. He came over when I think he was 11 years old when he came over. So soccer was basically ingrained in everything he did. He played it when he was in college. And when he was coaching, I was like 2 years old, and he'd be carrying me around in the soccer ball bag. I would, you know, jump in the ball bag, and he'd like toss me over his shoulder, and he'd be coaching, and I'd be on the field just like, you know, kicking around the ball, running around, whatever. So I was always like outside moving, you know, doing stuff. And growing up, it was always soccer for me, right? And my dad got me into soccer because of the team aspect of it, the camaraderie aspect of it, and how you have to like work together with people, right? Because it's not one person that can take the ball up and score in the goal. Like you have to rely on your other teammates, right?
Yeah.
So from that perspective, he was like, soccer is a great game. It teaches you sportsmanship, camaraderie, all that stuff. And growing up, playing football in the neighborhood and everything, I was always the kid that was like, punting the ball and like kickoffs and stuff when we were playing in the neighborhood, right? So my dad and I remember how we had a conversation probably when I was in junior high. I think it was probably like eighth grade. And we were starting to kind of think about like college and whether soccer was like the long-term thing or not. And we both kind of realized, there's not a ton of money for me in soccer, like getting into college. So the goal was always to do something that would get me at least a partial scholarship in college to help pay for some of that, right? So football became the avenue, specifically kicking, because I mean, there's like no kids in high school, at least like when we were back in high school, there were no kids that were like, I'm going to be a kicker. It was like, no,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
find the biggest kid that can kick the ball the farthest and you just have him boot the hell out of the ball, right? And it was funny because like that's all I did was kick. It was either like a receiver that could kick or, a linebacker that could also kick as well. But it was very rare when we were back in high school to have a kid that was like just focused on kicking. But the goal was always to get to college and get some money out of it.
Yeah, that's awesome though. When you think about that from that aspect, because you're right, it is usually like it's a wide receiver, it's somebody like that, but you risk so much with that person not knowing how to kick, how's everything going to work out? Are they injured? Are they going to get tired? Um, to actually have a soccer player then transition into kicking. I mean, you see it in the early, like, Pop Warner football, even freshman year, stuff like that. You're not really kicking field goals as a team because you didn't really have kickers.
No.
A lot of teams we faced, you could see the difference with the teams that we faced if they had a kicker or someone who just kicked for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. It's really interesting because especially as a soccer style kicker, I had to teach myself how to kick. It was my dad and I kind of like figuring out the mechanics of everything, watching a lot of like YouTube was just coming out at the time. It was people weren't really like uploading instructional videos and stuff like it is today, right? Like I could go onto YouTube and find out how to replace any part on my car, right? And I can just YouTube it. And there's hundreds of mechanics that are like, here's how you do it step by step. When we were in high
Yeah.
school, it was like jackass style videos of people like pushing shopping carts off a cliff to get views of, you know what I mean? So it was really hard to like learn about something on YouTube. So it was really my dad and I kind of like figuring out the mechanics, the swing, um, and trying to just go to like as many camps as I could to learn from coaches or people that had started their own camps to kind of start teaching kids more. We were kind of in that era of like cultivation through doing camps or running, multi-day sessions. And we were like just at the precipice of when that was starting.
Wow. There's a lot that goes into that. Because when I met you, I was like, no, that's the kicker. But I had known that you transitioned from soccer to football. So it's always kind of the question, like, if you're not within that, if you're not directly impacted, you're like, yeah, that seems like the right thing to do. Especially for like Brockton High, which they also had a good soccer team. But you start thinking along those lines of like, well, yeah, if he did go from one sport to another to do something, it would be kicking. But you don't know the full ins and outs of like, yeah, like camps and stuff. Because like you said, there weren't really YouTube videos. We weren't
No,
watching that.
no. I mean, I remember when I was so growing up, I played like little league baseball and everything, and so it was soccer, little league baseball. Remember there was like karate in there too. I played volleyball in high school, played football in high school as well. But just learning the mechanics for such a specialized position was difficult because there's there were a lot of guys running camps for like receivers or linebackers or quarterbacks, right? Because those are more of like the higher profile positions. But I mean, kickers are dime a dozen. And not only that, good kickers, it's very hard to get in and learn from them when you're wanting to get more specialized one-on-one coaching from them rather than having hundreds of kickers try and learn from this one person, right? So
Yeah.
they were more spread out and it was harder to find camps that were taught by either an ex-pro or someone that was doing recruiting that had connections to either a current kicker, someone that had previously kicked, or someone that had coached kickers.
That's so true. I never thought about that until you said it. If I'm doing wide receiver or DB, there's other DBs and wide receivers to talk to, bounce ideas off of. In practice, you're matched up against your friends essentially. So you're like, hey, am I tipping anything? If I'm a receiver, am I like doing anything with my hands that's letting you know? And they can kind of feed off of each other. You didn't have any kickers to really feed off of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was me and my tees and a couple of footballs at practice, and that was it.
Yeah, you're like, all right, man, if it goes through, doing something right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Punting's always like the interesting. That's something that's interesting as well, because there's such an art to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's everything from the drop to the swing to the positioning of the ball there's so many mechanics that go into it. It's kind of like pitching, where you have all these different styles of pitching, and in order to get good at each pitch, there's different mechanics that go into the pitches, right? So thinking through punting, kickoffs, field goals, it's very different styles for each of them. There's not necessarily different swings, but there's different mechanics to think of for each of them.
Yeah, and you don't normally think about them until you bring it up, and I'm like, that's so true.
Yeah, I mean, if it works, everything. It's this thing, like, if everything is working, then it looks easy. But when things aren't working, you notice how many pain points there are and how many things are breaking along the way.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've heard it before. All you do is kick a ball. And you're like, do you know what goes into all of this? Do you know how difficult it is? I mean, the fact, like, it was very impressive, the fact that we pulled off that onside kick in the Super Bowl. I don't know how much we practiced it.
I remember I brought up the idea to Colombo, and it was funny because I think it was like the weekend before or the week before, I was watching a college game. I think it was like Colorado or someone, I forget. And they did that like surprise onside, like pooch kick, right? My dad and I were like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, let's play around with it at practice. And it was never like a focus. It was, kickoffs, field goals, and then, you leave a couple minutes at the end of like your practice to kind of just mess around and have some fun. But we had started practicing it, and my dad basically just stood, 10, 12 yards on the sideline and was like, hit me, right? And I remember when I told Colombo, like, hey, I can do this kind of pooch kick, and I showed him, and I think I messed up the first one, and he kind of just like gave me this look of like, why the hell are you wasting my time?
He's such a legendary coach, legendary
like,
coach.
Look at this cool thing, coach, But yeah, I remember eventually we got it down, and he wasn't like excited about it. He was kind of just like, okay. And he was like, okay, we'll keep it in my back pocket if we need it. And then, of course, the time he calls it isn't like during a regular season game. It's like, okay, in the Super Bowl against Everett, when we're down by like, I think it was like 2 points or, a touchdown or something like that. And I was like, if I mess this up right now, I'm going to go down as the kid that lost to Everett when we had the best chance of winning a Super Bowl under, the new Colombo coach. And we were playing at Bentley, if you remember. We were playing at Bentley's Field.
Oh, yeah.
And we were not the favorite to win that game.
No, they were 3 years in a row. That was going to be their four-peat. I know Matt Nuzzle, their quarterback. He ended up playing, he played baseball, and then he played professionally. Great guy, hard worker. He was their quarterback, so everything was like a QB sneak with them.
Mm-hmm. And he was an incredible athlete.
Unbelievable. Like, that whole team was just, they were stacked. You could see why they had won it 3 years in a row.
Well, absolutely.
And I remember us practicing that for such a short time. And then he called it in a game. And I was like, all PJ has to do is get it past that line, and I'm going to run to it. Mm-hmm. Like, and it's crazy because they never picked up, because I was never really on kickoff because I wasn't tackling anyone, but I was on that play. And me and Corey Brown actually noticed, because we were the kickoff return men. We noticed that whenever they lined up a specific guy to one side of the kicker, they were going to kick the ball to that side. And because I was going to be the guy who was going to get it most of the time, I would always switch, to that side type of thing.
Yep.
And they never picked it up, and it was the perfect kick.
Yeah. I'll never forget the story that you were telling me too, where we went through, like, you catch the ball, we get down, we're on the sideline celebrating, and I think it was after the game when we were at George's, and we had like overtaken George's because we weren't even supposed to be there. No one thought like we were gonna win, right? But I remember you saying that you went up and caught the ball, and the guy just buried his helmet like right in your groin, and you just like immediately crumpled, and everybody's just pulling you up, like celebrating, and you're just like, "Oh my gosh, I'm in so much pain right now."
Yeah, people are picking me up, slapping me in the head, stuff like that, and I'm like 4'2", so I'm like getting knocked to the side. But in the meantime, I'm worried about a much bigger problem. People are like, you should be happy. I'm like, I can't breathe.
Yeah, I couldn't breathe. I wanted to throw up.
Oh man!
And thinking back on that too, all they had to do, like, they could have called a fair catch on that. I think. I don't think, because it never hit the ground. It went straight into the air.
It was straight into the air.
So they could have called fair catch, and we would have never had a chance.
That's a good point. But a lot of teams aren't specializing in special teams. It's kind of...
That's true.
Because I remember when I was because special teams was our world. Like the team was so good. I wasn't getting on to do, to be a wide receiver or a DB. I was only there for punt returns, kick returns. And I remember hearing one of the guys come in, and he was one of the receivers, and he had mentioned, dude, I hate special teams, man. I don't even block. And I'm like, damn, man. It's like,
you're like, I just want to be on the field.
Yeah, come on, man. There's like 70 guys on the bench that would just die to get onto the field on one of these Friday nights.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's crazy. So I mean,
all right, don't run to that side. Trying to keep that in mind. Okay,
absolutely.
So you transitioned for the possibility, or the increased possibility, of maybe kicking in school and maybe getting a little bit of a scholarship. How did that work out? Like, how was your college experience, your transition from high school into college? Did you know where you were going to go?
So yes and no. I wasn't recruited heavily as a kicker to like play football for any colleges. I was a walk-on at Northeastern. They had recruited a kicker from another high school. So it was myself and this other kicker that were always like, battling for starting position. But I applied to a handful of schools, and the application process was kind of interesting for me because like I always wanted to go to a school that had both, but wasn't necessarily like strong in football, but not as strong in academics, because with my parents both being teachers growing up, they're always like academics, right? Like that's what's important. And at the end of the day, whatever you graduate with, your career that you go into is going to be based off of like what you've learned in school and all of your academics throughout time, right? When you think about professional sports, you're talking about like the top 1% of the 1%. So the likelihood of guys making it to the NFL, especially as a kicker, is very slim. I mean, you're talking about 32 teams, you have 32 kickers. You'll be lucky if you even get looked at, right? So going to a school, football was kind of like secondary in a sense. Again, it was more of an outlet to get some, get a scholarship, to get some income to like pay for schooling, right? And it was interesting because when I was at Northeastern, they cut the football program when I was a junior going into my senior year. So at that point, I was like, F this school. I hate Northeastern. I'm leaving here because they basically rugged us, and there was like no warning. They cut the program. So we were all understandably upset about it, right? Like these guys that had put in hours and hours of dedication day in and day out. All of a sudden the president of the school was like, no more program. So that was the point where I transferred to Bentley. And at that point, I had talked to a handful of coaches and basically been like, here's what I can do. Here's my specialties, et cetera, et cetera. So ended up at Bentley. I had a great season with the team at Bentley. Some extremely talented guys that I got to play with there, as well as Northeastern. And the funny part of the story is I consider Bentley like my semester abroad, because when I was at Bentley, that would have been my 5th year in college, right? So when I got there, they had me doing like some intro classes, those like 101 classes where
Yeah.
you kind of like, just learn about, freshman type stuff. And I'm like this 5th year senior in with these freshmen, and they're like, I think it was philosophy. And the guy's like, what is important to you? And I was like, have a good paying job, be able to support my family. And all the freshmen are like, I want to continue learning after school, and I'm going to have a library with all these books. I'm like, life has not hit you yet.
Yeah,
So
you don't.
it's,
That hasn't worn off yet. Yeah.
but I had a much more like realistic outlook, right? So it was really funny. But when I was at Bentley, they were like, all right, you have to do another year and a half. And I was like, all right, well, I don't want to be Van Wilder at school for like 6.5 years. So I then transferred back to Northeastern and did my last semester at Northeastern before I graduated. So college was an interesting, it helped me learn a lot about not only like the business side of sports, but a lot about, obviously academics and everything, and just kind of how the world works and why things are important.
Yeah, that's a crazy college story. Back and forth so much, going through all of that. Like, I remember the first time going through like the college application process, because I wasn't too sure. So in November, my senior year, so I didn't play football my senior year because I was flying to Miami. I was going to a number of these schools that I was interested in playing baseball, and football was always a thing that it kept me in shape. I loved the guys, the team camaraderie. But baseball, after my junior year, I think that was honestly when I realized, okay, baseball's a thing for me. And I only had like a month until you start doing the 2-a-days and getting into football. So I'm trying to crunch as much time as I can to find out, do I want to play football, or, am I going to be flying to go see some of these schools? And I remember just like filling out all the forms and trying to get all of that timeline done. I didn't even have to do that again, but you had to do it from high school to Northeastern to Bentley back
Yeah.
to Northeastern. Yeah,
Yeah.
you grew up a little bit in that time of learning different transitions.
Yeah. And it's fine. I mean, like, thinking about it from a purely financial aspect, it was not a smart move to move to Bentley because I didn't have the scholarship. I didn't fully understand like the loan process, what interest meant, and like paying interest on loans and things like that, because we're never like taught the details of that in school, right? So when you're signing these applications and they're like, all right, you're going to pay, I think when I was filling out applications, the interest rates were hovering somewhere between like 12 and 20% or something crazy like that for loans,
Yeah.
right? And you're like, okay, cool, 12 and 20, that's a low number. But then you're talking about taking out thousands of dollars. So it's something that after college, when I got the first bill, that's when I realized, like, shoot.
Ye- what is this?
Exactly. I was like, oh, I have to actually give them money for this experience that I just had. But honestly, like the trade-offs between, and this is the hard part, is the trade-offs for the experience versus the money you pay. It's so hard because I loved playing football through college. I met some incredible guys when I was playing football, like some very talented guys that are doing all sorts of things in their corporate lives now, right? And I mean, playing football and playing baseball, you build such a group or of such a group of friends, lifelong connections that you can always fall back on. And I don't know if there's necessarily like money that can make up for that.
No,
So it's interesting to try and think about those trade-offs.
absolutely. I know that's one thing that people will talk about. Certain schools and in education's overpaid. You're paying this much for a piece of paper. It's like, no, you're paying that much for a certain level of growth, a fraternity, a brotherhood, whatever it is that's going to create this new version of you and build that thicker shell on your back. I dealt with it when I went to Miami. There were people, and it was tough at times too, because there were people up here that told me that I wouldn't be able to play in Florida, that like I was good up here, but it's different down there. And it was surprising to hear some of those people say that, because those were people that I thought had believed in me and was part of like fueling me to take that chance and go down there. And then I found out it was a different kind of fuel. But if I didn't go down there and deal with those tough times and gain that experience, you wouldn't be the person you are today, because a person like us, the next version of you is created in that process. And like you said, you can't
learn
put
a lot in a small period
like,
of time.
You can't put a dollar amount on, because there's people who didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
There's
and
people
then you
who
live with
didn't
that
do
regret.
it. Yeah, and you can't get it back.
Right.
You
right.
know?
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah. So this year for you in 2025 marks your 10-year cancerversary, right? How did you find out what's the backstory to all of that?
Yeah. So in 2015, I was living in Somerville at the time with two of my buddies that I had previously worked with. And I don't know if you remember, but back in 2005, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. So, when we were at the football games and everything, I remember, a handful of guys would always like kind of come in and check on me, just like kind of see how things were going. And then in 2009, I think it was 2009, my dad was diagnosed with colon cancer. And I remember it was like right after Northeastern had cut the program. It's funny how you like you remember these random points in time because of things that happened.
Yeah.
But I vividly remember going into the hospital with my Northeastern helmet, which I actually have on one of my bookshelves because I took it from the locker room after they cut the program. Then in 2015, I was living in Somerville, and I was still like working out and everything, like coming up through high school, playing through college and everything. I've continued to stay active just because if I don't and I sit too long, my brain goes crazy. But I remember thinking I felt a lump, and I remember thinking like, oh, maybe I strained it while I was lifting or something, right? And I watched it for probably like a week or two, and then I realized like nothing's changing. I need to go talk to my doctor, right? And honestly, I don't know if my parents hadn't had the experiences that they had, I don't know if I would have gone to talk to my doctor. But as soon as I kind of felt this lump, I kind of had the knowledge in the back of my head of like, this is something I need to figure out, right? It's not like when you cut yourself or when you pull a muscle or something, your body kind of knows, your brain kind of tells your body like, okay, this is what it is, right? I've pulled so many muscles at this point that I'm like, yeah, I know how to deal with it. But with the history that my parents had, as soon as I felt the lump, I was like, this is probably something serious. And when I went to my doctor, I remember saying, I think it's cancer. And he was like, well, let's not, jump into anything too prematurely. And then we did the ultrasound and everything. And I remember him coming back out and he's like, it looks like it's cancer. And I was like, cool, what's the next step? And again, I don't know if I think because of what my parents went through, in my head, I didn't give myself that sort of emotional space to be like, oh, cancer, this is a big thing. Like, I need time to process, right? Because I had processed both my parents and what they went through. So for me, it was like, what do I need to do? What's the next step? Right. And it was purely focused on what's the next thing in the journey.
Yeah, that's amazing. It really is, how you can tap into that, because polar opposites, and they're just so strong in the opposite directions. You can break down and you can quit, or literally with a steel face, it's like, all right, what's next?
Yeah. And I remember, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I'm glad you took that approach.
Yeah, I think I was able to do that because when my mom was diagnosed and when my dad was diagnosed, I had a lot of anger, a lot of questioning about like why is this happening? Why is my family going through this? When my dad was diagnosed, I was like, why us again, right? So it's by the time it like got around to me, it was less emotional, more focused on, okay, I've seen this done before. I know the steps that I need to take. I need to focus on taking those steps And it's not necessarily because it's energy wasted or anything like that. I'm not trying to like put down people that get emotional or anything, but I had been through it. So I had, for better or worse, I had known kind of the rough plan that needed to happen. And when my doctor had told me, I was at one of the doctor's offices in Brockton, and he was like, we have the resources here. We're happy to treat you with, chemotherapy and everything. And but I have a feeling that you'll go into Dana-Farber because that's where my mom was treated. My dad was treated at MGH. And we're very lucky being like living on the South Shore at the time because, I mean, Dana-Farber,
It's
GH, they're
they're,
40 minutes
they're
away, 30 minutes
yeah,
away.
and they're the best. You
Exactly.
know.
Exactly. So he basically said to me, we can treat it here. I have a feeling you're going to go to Dana-Farber. And I looked at him and I was like, I appreciate it. Yes, I'm going to Dana-Farber. And then when I left the doctor's office, my mom had come with me. I remember walking out of the door. She was out of the waiting room because she like couldn't sit down. She was a nervous wreck. And I remember opening the glass door, and she kind of gave me this look of like, like, well, what is it? What are we up against? And I like had to tell her like it is cancer. And I remember her breaking down. Um, and then, after we got ourselves together, I went to go see my family, had to tell my sister. And I vividly remember my sister saying, I thought we had more time because in our heads, in my sister and in my head, we had kind of resigned ourselves to, this is going to sound morbid. I don't mean it in this way, but we had kind of resigned ourselves to at some point we will probably deal with cancer in our lives because both my mom and my dad had dealt with it. Right. So to us, it was kind of like not if the shoe drops, but when. And at that point, we thought, we thought we had more time, but unfortunately, that's one of the lessons with life is like you always think you have more time, and unfortunately, that's not the case.
Yeah, that's such a crazy story. Just like thinking about the timelines and how close everything was together and what you had gone through from 2005 to just 2015 at the beginning of your journey in that 10-year span. It's not like it happened in January 2025, 2005, and then January 2015. It was throughout, man. And what were the early days like when you went to Dana-Farber?
So I can't speak highly enough of Dana-Farber. From the day that I was diagnosed, I met with two oncologists at Dana-Farber who specialize in genitourinary cancers. So I met with both of them. It was my parents and the two oncologists, and they basically said, like, pick one of us. Who are you more comfortable with working with, right? I wasn't assigned to a doctor. I had a say in a lot of what my treatment plan was. And I remember, I think it was from the time I was diagnosed, the time that I had surgery, it was a week. And I remember meeting with my oncologist after that, after I had recovered from my surgery. And he said, at this point, you have an 85% chance of cure. So with testicular cancer, they talk cures. They don't talk about remission. They don't talk about, um, you'll have to come back and see us every 6 months or however often to check if your cancer is gone. They talk about true cures. And at that point, like I had seen my mom go through chemo, I had seen her go through radiation, I had seen my dad go through chemo, and I was like, I am not messing with any of that, right? Like
Yeah.
chemo truly just nukes your body. So I was like, nope, 85% B plus, good to me. I'm good. So at that point, I was like, cool, I'm cured. And that was I think it was May of that year, 2015. And then went through the summer. I was training for the Spartan race at Fenway. And that morning before the Spartan race, I had gone in for my CT scan. And I had some like tenderness in my back. But again, I thought it was just like from running and, I needed to stretch because my body was tight, whatever. But the lymph nodes in my back became enlarged. So at that point, my oncologist was like, okay, it looks like we have to go through chemo. And the day after Thanksgiving that year, I sat down for 3 rounds, the start of my 3 rounds of chemo that would last from November to beginning of January.
So was that 1 round per month around that
No,
time?
my schedule was so I would go in, I think it was 4 days a week, and then I'd have like an off day, but I've like blocked out a lot of this in my mind, but I would have to go in day after day after day, and it was hours of infusions where you basically just like sit in a chair, you're hooked up into the IV and it just, drips in. But the chemo I was on was a platinum-based chemotherapy. So it's called BEP, which is bleomycin, etoposide, and cisplatin, are the names of the drugs that they put into you. But every day, to your original question, every day the nurses come in, the doctors come in, they're basically like, okay, where are you at? They do the blood tests, they figure out like what your levels look like. And I remember there were a couple days that, especially towards the end of my chemo, I basically had no immune system. And I was in my own room because basically, like, if anybody breathed on me the wrong way, I would get sick.
Yeah, yeah.
So there were multiple days where the nurse, had to have multiple conversations with the doctor to be like, one, is your body strong enough? Two, can you actually bounce back for us to allow you to receive the next round of chemo? And there were a couple days where I was like almost on the cusp where they almost pulled the plug of like, you're not strong enough to do chemo today.
That's crazy. How do they know, so you said there's tests for them to find out if you're at the proper strength? Like,
Yeah, so with my chemo specifically, they test my white blood cells. So your white blood cells are what keep you healthy. You kind of get all of like toxins, any sort of sicknesses out of your system. I had mentioned towards the end of my chemo, I had basically no immune system because at the beginning of my chemo, they give you a white blood cell booster. So it's basically almost like a steroid injection where, it just boosts your white blood cell count in your body. The problem is I had a horrible reaction to it when they gave it to me. So they were like, all right, no more of that. And because of that, because I couldn't take those booster shots, my system just continued to degrade over time. Um, so there's just like so many nuances that go into it that they have to check each time before you sit down for chemo because they don't want to run you into the ground. And you're going to end up in a body bag anyways
yeah,
if they're just like
yeah.
giving you drugs, right? And you're not going to be able to bounce back. So there's just like so many things that they have to check before you start chemo, while you're going through it, etc. Um, it's a pretty wild process to go through. But I would go in, they would put an IV in, and then I would go upstairs to my room, and then they would hook me up, and then sit there for I think it was like either 3 or 5 hours or something like that, and then they would send me home, and I would come back the next day, and think it was either 4 or 5 days a week. And then I would have, I think, a week off and then a week on. But yeah, it was, 3 rounds of that. It lasted, I think it was a month and a half from end to end.
What was it like after everything was finalized? I want to say, like, what was it like when you went in for your last round of chemo, when maybe you were heading into the direction you were wanting to head into? Like, what was that feeling like as you were kind of towards the end of all the testing and all the chemo?
Yeah. So I remember the last day that I had chemo, I went in with my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife. We like made a day out of it afterwards, right? Because we were like, hell yeah, like done with chemo, wash our hands of this, get this crap out of our lives, right?
Yeah.
So I had finished chemo and we went out to eat to Max Brenner's in Boston at the time, which was like a chocolate based restaurant, whatever. I had no hair. And, I have like the band on my arm from where the IV was, and I'm like joking around. And then we get into the car and I pass out because I was just like dead tired. So it was this very weird, like you would like get all this energy and then you would just absolutely crash. So I remember we went out to eat. I slept the whole way home and we were both like super happy that I was done with chemo, obviously. And then I think it was a week later, I woke up it was either 2 or 3 in the morning, just could not breathe. And I was just in severe chest pain. So called my oncologist who happened to be on call that night, and he was like, "Get to the emergency room immediately." Long story short, had blood clots in my lungs, so I ended up in the emergency room a week after I had finished chemo. After I was like, I don't want to see another hospital again, and unfortunately, then went on blood thinners for like 6 months.
Was that like a known side effect that you would have? Is that something that was disclosed to you, like, hey, these are some of the side effects of something you might have, or it just it was?
It's always a possibility, especially with so what they're worried about with platinum-based chemotherapies is the effects that it has on your lungs and your ears. So like even now, I sometimes have to go in to have hearing tests done just to make sure that everything is good. I also get a yearly X-ray done on my chest just to make sure like pathways are good, everything's looking okay. Because the platinum-based chemotherapy, they're still they're always testing and learning, right? So they're using like some of my results and the chemo that they're running now just to understand what are the long-term side effects of these things. But yeah, when you start chemo, there's a whole list of side effects, everything from like a mild cough up to like this can kill you. And I don't say that in a sarcastic sense. I truly mean like, chemo it can ravage your body. But like a lot of people that go through it now, especially with everything that they've learned, not that it's easy, but it's getting easier. And it's because of programs like the PanMass and a lot of nonprofits that are donating money for doctors to do the research in order to then provide better therapies and drugs to cancer patients and people going through treatment.
Yeah, and also providing additional research, like we talked about in 2004, 5, on just things like YouTube videos. Like there's more data out there now. It's more available. Not that it makes anything that much easier, but it's at least a little bit more known. And you've seen
Absolutely.
it. You've seen it. And with you
Mhm.
speaking in certain forms of levity about it, not necessarily like the levity, but you can say something and giggle because you had been through it, because it's your life, it's your community. It's the same thing that I go through and deal with my son, um being on the autism spectrum. I can i can laugh and joke in certain ways with other parents and people about certain situations, because it's like it's a part of my everyday life as well. So you bringing levity as you're explaining this to us, it's nice to hear, because not everyone knows about it. It's just this massive scary thing in so many
Yeah,
ways.
absolutely. And there's so many resources out there now, and you were just alluding to this. And I mean, whether it's cancer, autism, other diseases, whatever it might be, there's so many resources out there now where
Hmm.
even like when we were in high school, something would happen and people were kind of just like, let's keep it kind of hush hush. But now there's so many resources that you can tap into, and it's helped so many people. And whether it's, for me, like I wanted to be able to like laugh through my journey and continue to try and I have a very dark sense of humor, so that was helpful for me. But like a lot of people aren't like that, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's so many resources out there now that you can tap into, and it's so important because you need to be able to kind of find your group that can help you through this rather than trying to go through or go over every hurdle on your own, because it just makes it so much easier in the long run.
Yeah, having a community is massive at no matter what it is that you're doing. It's having, soundboards, people to bounce ideas off of, that, understand what you're going through, and to also give it back to the next person that might be going through it. And for them to see you go through this and kind of share your dark humor and have your times of levity, that's a big thing, man. I run into it, like I said, on small occasions too with us, and I'll go to pick up Cole from school, and you'll see the other brand new to school autism parents there, and they're so nervous, rightfully so. And
Yep,
I go up there.
absolutely.
I was like 2 weeks ago. I went up there, and someone was like holding a sign with the teacher's name on it, like, and then like their kid's name under it, and I don't have a sign.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at like 5 or 6 people hold these signs. I'm like, where did you guys get the signs from? And they're like laughing. I'm like, did you guys make these? Did you have like a parent conference and didn't invite me? I was like, I don't have a sign. And Cole comes running out, and like all the teachers and paras know me. So he comes running to me, and everyone's like holding these signs waiting for their kids. And I'm like, you guys, this isn't an airport, you know? You guys are all limo drivers over here,
That's incredible.
talk to the teachers, get to know people. So now when the teachers and paras see me and my wife, they know our kid's the one who runs into school because he's excited.
I love that. That's so awesome to hear.
That's a breath of fresh air for me, because I wasn't always the kind of kid who ran into school.
I know.
So
it's crazy. I mean, that's awesome to hear. That like, it's not only does he feel safe, but he feels comfortable being himself, and that he is excited to be there too. It's such a blessing.
Yeah. Oh, we joke about it all the time too, because I'm a goofball. So anywhere we go, I'm just doing whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
Like I've talked about it before. Like we go to Target and we're just both laying in the middle of the floor because he found some things he wants to play with. Yeah. And I'm just like, the staff might say, listen, you got to get up. We'll get up. People can kind of go around us. I'm living in his world in that moment. I'm not afraid to deal with any repercussions if they're there. But at the end of the day, he'll know that I always got his back, and that I'm willing to live in his world rather than him feel uncomfortable in everyone else's.
Yeah. So I'm sure for him, having that, essentially like that safety blanket and that person that feels comfortable doing whatever he is doing is so incredibly important. I mean, like I tell Adrian, if there's no sign, it doesn't mean, if there's no sign, you can do it, right? He's always like, oh, can we do this? I'm like, is there a sign saying we can't? And he's like, no. I'm like, all right, let's do it.
It's a good point.
Yeah, he's like, all right, I want to like balance or walk on this thing. I'm like, cool, do it. And he's like, will you do it with me? I'm like, absolutely, let's do it.
Yeah.
Having that kind of like person that you can tap into, or like that friend, that whether it's a friend, a parent, whoever it might be, but having that person that you can just be yourself with is so incredibly important.
Yeah, and it teaches you to relax a little bit. It's easy to put on the dad hat and think of all the things you're supposed to do and supposed to say. And I hate to get into Mr. Rogers, but he was doing an interview, and Oprah was asking him, what's the most important advice that you would give to parents? And he says, like, remember what it was like when you were a kid. Because we're so caught up, essentially, like, there's got to be bills and we have to go to job and keep food on the table. How do we keep the roof above our head? And you're worried about all of this, and they're not. They're just being kids.
A different lens. And it's so hard to take ourselves out of that from day to day and think or see things through their eyes. But once you start doing it, you realize how important it is to them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's the best thing in the world.
Yep. I agree.
What's Adrian into? Anything good?
He very into superheroes right now, very into trucks, very much just like wants to get dirty all the time, which I'm like, hell yeah, man, let's do it.
That's awesome. So you have a favorite superhero?
It would have to be either Spider-Man or Batman right now, I think. But his imagination is wild. He's like, all right, we're going to go play race car super stunt race. And I'm like, I don't know how to play that, but let's do it.
Yeah, you're going to have to show me.
I'm just along for the ride.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned too about with like cancer research and not making it easier for people today, but to have more access to resources such as the PMC, right? So like you had just participated in the PMC in 2025. Like, what is it, and what is the purpose of the Pan Mass Challenge?
Yeah, so it's a great question. 2025 was my third ride. PMC is a charity ride where there's multiple different lengths. I think they have everywhere up from 25 miles up to the 186 miles, which is what I do. So the 186 miles is across 2 days. First day is 109 or 111 miles. Second day is like almost 80 miles, right? So really what it is a way for people to raise money for Dana-Farber and the Jimmy Fund. the PMC is the single largest donation that the Jimmy Fund and Dana-Farber get. This year, their goal is a $76 million gift. Last year, they donated $75 million. The wild thing about it is some of the people that ride are the doctors that are doing the research. So they're literally raising money for the drugs that they are researching or the tests that they are researching. And that money is directly going to them to do that research. So for me, with my mom and I going through the doors at Dana-Farber, it's a way for me to give back to the patients, the nurses, the team, everybody at Dana-Farber, people that are going through it now, and finally being able to essentially say thank you to them for what they have given not only me, but like my family. So each year there's a minimum that you have to raise. So this year, for the 186-mile ride, you have to raise at least $6,000. I'm like $250 away from 10K this year, which is incredible. I think over my lifetime, I've raised just below $30,000 if I remember correctly, or something like that. I'm like right around like that $25,000 mark. So people are always like, oh, how long are you going to do PMC for? And I'm like, I mean, at this point, I'm in it for as long as my body stays healthy and for as long as I can push pedals on a bike. People will hate me as the cyclist on the side of the road, but every dollar that I raise, all the money that I raise goes straight to Dana-Farber. So I'm happy to do it.
That's beautiful. Is there a timeline of when you're raising the money between? Because you said like you're $250 shy. Is there like from this date to this date, or is it just?
So it's fairly open. You have to raise the minimum. I think yesterday was the day for the cutoff for the minimum. PMC is always the first weekend in August. So I usually start around like March, April to give me a few months. Because it takes some time to raise a few $1,000s, but I mean, it's been incredible. Everyone's support has been absolutely incredible. And whether it's $5 or $500, like every amount makes a difference. And it's because every dollar goes back to the hospital. They're not dipping their hand in and, covering overhead costs or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's, so I know people sometimes are like, oh, well, I can only give $5. I'm like, great, $5 is $5. That's going to research, care, to something at the hospital. It's not, going to cover some other cost that's not necessarily associated with the hospital. So that's what I tell people when I'm fundraising. They're always like, I wish I could give more. And I'm like, listen, if you can give, that's what's important. And it's not necessarily the amount. Like, it's not that I don't care about the amount. It's if you can give money to me, I am happy for that because it's not going to me. It's going to the hospital. It's not going to the Pan Mass organization. It's going to the hospital and the Jimmy Fund. And the majority of the money that they donate is to cancer care and research for pediatric cancers. So it also helps out adult cancer care, but a lot of it is for pediatric cancer care.
That's huge. That is big. And yeah, every dollar does count, man. It's any small thing that you can get in. And you said it perfectly. It's the meaning behind it too. It's like if you can give $5, don't think it's not enough. Because there are people who can afford to give 25 that won't, but you'll give your $5 for this.
Yeah.
And, it's such a big thing. It really is, man.
Whether it's, PMC or another nonprofit, giving something that you are giving to something that you are passionate about is what's important and supporting that cause. I guarantee you, if you went to any nonprofit and said like, I only have $5 and they're like, can you do $5 a month? And you were like, yeah, then they would be elated to have a donor that is recurring, right? No, I would be shocked if a nonprofit is like, I don't want your $5. If that's the case, then don't work with that nonprofit.
Yeah, it sounds like there's not enough money for them to get a profit.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't want to waste their time.
Yeah, truly. Like find the thing that you are passionate about that you want to support and figure out, even if it's not money, like if you can help by volunteering your time or helping raise interest in the cause, like that's truly what's important.
Yeah, that's big. And throughout this, I know you had talked about your mom going through Dana-Farber as well, but even with your dad, just in general, like how supportive has your family been, not only for one another throughout all of it, but even, your journey now and what you're doing, because it's not just going through it. Like, you're in it now, and you're kind of like a beacon of light for that in many ways. Like, how has your family's been supportive with you this time?
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's there when you were asking the question, the dark humor in me was like gonna respond is like they hate me, they've cut me off. But it's not true. They my family's been incredibly supportive, right? And it's everything from when I'm out doing training rides for, 4 or 5 hours on the weekend on a day, helping babysit Adrian or helping Dana with Adrian, all the way out to tapping people for fundraising, right? Because it becomes a group effort of raising money to give back to the hospitals. So them tapping into their network, giving me leads on people that might be able to donate or to help me out to make connections with people that might be able to donate if those other people cannot. Uh, my family has been, even when I was originally diagnosed and going through my journey in general, my family has always been an anchor for me. That I know that I can always fall back on them for whatever I need, truly whatever I need. I remember my mom joking at one point during my diagnosis through to my treatment about just how open we are in general of like sharing different information with each other, because it really gets to the point where it's like some of this stuff that we are sharing is kind of like kids don't think about talking about that stuff with their parents, or like parents may
Yeah.
feel kind of like awkward talking about that with their kids. Um, but I never really felt like that with my parents or with my family. It was always, I know they're there to support me, and they're always basically waiting in the wings of like, what can we do to help?
Yeah. And you talked about Dana being there even from a girlfriend to now. Like, how much has that meant for you to see, as you reflect back on your entire past, to have someone that's been there from your toughest times at the initial and early stages of not just your relationship, but being, finding out that you actually had cancer, to now what you see as the mother of your son?
Yeah. I mean, I will never not say that Dana is not the strongest woman that I know. She is absolutely the strongest woman I have ever met. She is an incredible human being. Um, I am absolutely blessed to have her by my side. I feel so lucky to have her not only as my wife, but to have her as Adrian's mom. I get to learn from her every single day. And to have someone, like you said, to have someone like that stand by your side and be that constant is so incredibly important. Whether it's a significant other, a friend, whomever it might be, like we talked about earlier, finding that group, whether it's one person or a group of people, having that by your side. For me, it's just been so helpful through everything. And I know it sounds kind of shallow or flat, but it's, I don't know if I would have been able to get through everything without someone like that by my side.
Yeah. And it's not shallow at all. It's showing a different level of appreciation too, that people deserve to hear. There's not enough times that we go out and just thank the people for what they've done for us. All right. Usually we're waiting for this moment to celebrate someone's life rather than celebrating some of the small pieces that they've done on a daily basis for us. And as you see sometimes in age, that number of people and favors can dwindle, right? So that you have this person, and man, you guys have been together for some time at this,
Mhm.
at this point. And I'm right there with you with my story. Kayla was there with me at the end of my college run before I had ever signed any baseball contracts. So she had been there from the very beginning, and then she was also there for me in the tough times in baseball and when I transitioned out of baseball.
Yeah.
I
I'm
had
sure
gone
there
through.
was some bumps there too that she was more than happy to step up and help you through.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. And I'm glad you said that because I've more so recently just started speaking on it a little bit more, but like the depression I went through after baseball. It's such a loss of identity, where
Hmm.
you define yourself as this certain role and you've spent 25, 26 years and then it's cut off.
Yeah, and then it's
In
gone.
mine, and for me too, it was very difficult for me because it wasn't the last year I played that they told me I wasn't good enough. I wasn't getting a call back. So I was highly susceptible to staph infection. And I had actually had staph infection 14 separate times. And I'd had knee surgery and wrist surgery because of it. I've been rushed off a baseball field
Jeez.
because it's in my bloodstream. So my last year I decided to hang it up, and she was there for that and there for me having to start a whole new career. And
Hmm.
like you said, that sense of community and having someone is I don't think they know how much we appreciate it.
Yeah, and it's true. You are basically restarting your life at that point, right? And having that person by your side to basically just say, "I'm here for whatever," is such a blessing because they don't need to be there, right? Like they could have been like, "This is too much. I'm gonna go find something that is easier," or "You're too much work. I'm not gonna deal with
Yeah.
you," or like, "You've been through too much." Like, but for whatever reason, we may never know. They've stuck around because they love us, and it is it's a blessing to have someone like that by our side.
Yeah. It really is. It really is. How's everyone in your family doing now?
Everyone is healthy. It's incredible. My mom is will be a 20-year survivor because she was diagnosed in 2005. My dad is coming up on 20 years in a couple. He just passed his 15 year because he was diagnosed 2009. But yeah, everyone's doing good.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
That
It
is
is.
so
It's.
cool, man.
And I think that's one of the great parts about the story is, it's because you hear about everybody's stories, and oftentimes a lot of the cancer stories don't have happy endings, and those are hard. Um, my family is very lucky that we all do have happy endings.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So now that you're living, you're married, kiddo, you're in it. What do you do for like your work-life balance? How do you maintain the your past athleticism and schooling and your cancer journey? Your What are you doing now for yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I still kind of struggle a bit with like I'm an athlete, but I'm not actually an athlete anymore. Like,
Yep,
I mean,
I know.
I'll get out there and whether it's softball after work or like just working out in the gym, there's a piece of me that's like, no, no, you're still an athlete. You can still push. And my body's like, dude, you got to stop. Because after I graduated college, I tried to make the NFL, had a free agent, and then my body was just like, dude, chill, like chill out. So that's when I learned because I slipped a disc in my lower back. So that's when I learned like, is being able to walk important or is chasing the money and the dream important, right? And that's when I learned like, okay, I need to pull back. But it's for me finding a job that challenges me from a mental aspect. I'm at the point in my life now where I found something that I'm very comfortable with that I can continue to push, but I don't have to kill myself at what I do. I'm not working 60-hour weeks, so I can then be home and, spend time with Adrian and my family because that's very important to me. Um, because he's at a point now where he's just learning so much. He's becoming his own human, and I want to be there for that time. Um, but then staying active too is so important for me. I mentioned earlier, like if I'm not active, my brain's going crazy, and I truly start to get shaky if I'm not moving around or outside running around or like doing something. So I'm still working out. I think riding the Pan Mass helps a lot because it's like 3 months of training out of the year. Um, and then, I mean, you can see my Peloton behind me, so I'm always doing some sort of workout class or something. But yeah, I have to stay active. Otherwise I go stir crazy. But I'm at a good point right now where I can balance like having my family, having my job, still being able to work out and do the things that I'm passionate about.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time to work out that balance. And sometimes it can, go off the rails. Because I just started playing baseball for the first time in like 5 years.
Okay.
So we just finished up this past Sunday, but yeah, getting back out there was different. It's been kind of a secluded time. I'm kind of an introvert as it is.
Hmm.
So I spend a lot of time with my son. He has a lot of needs. So we're always hanging out one-on-one type of thing and hanging out, just running around, doing all that stuff. So it was a good time to get back with a group of baseball players and build that team camaraderie and try to enjoy the weekends. We only play 2 games on Sunday, but it was nice to get back out there for me. And that's been a massive part of my work-life balance and um, just trying to stay even keeled.
Yeah. And I'm sure it feels so much better for you to not have to play for a career rather than just like enjoying the game, right? And being able to like have fun with it. It's such a different
Yes,
feeling.
it really is. And so now it's the first time I've ever played while being a father. So now between games, I'm texting and, hey, how's Coco doing?
Yeah,
And all of that stuff. So before you're just like, I'm focused on me and the drive. And now I'm like, guys, like, let's just have some fun. We all have kids,
exactly.
you know, calm down, man. None of us are going pro tomorrow. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Really,
why, I mean,
John, you're answering phones for T-Mobile tomorrow. You're getting the phone call. You know, you're going to the big leagues. Like, calm down,
that
guy.
was that was always one of the things for me. Like people are always like, "Oh, why didn't you play like intramural out of college or like a semi-pro league or anything like that?" And I'm like, honestly, with the experiences that I had playing with people in intramural leagues or like semi-pro leagues, they just took it so seriously. I'm like, dude, I have to wake up at 7:30 tomorrow to go to work, and I don't want to wake up with a broken ankle. I'm here to get a workout in, to have some fun, maybe have a beer or two after. That is it.
Yeah,
Like, and then you
yeah.
have these people that are like, no, I'm going pro tomorrow. Ball is coming in tonight. My agent is on the line and ready to sign that contract. And I'm like, let's pump the brakes.
Yeah. Let's calm down here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's funny. So as I think about it too, and with just your past, like what's one message you'd want people to know about cancer and screenings? Someone that might be going through it first time right now, someone who might be on the fence um like when you first discovered it. What do you have any piece of advice for that group of people?
So I think the shortest thing to say is one, you always have to check yourself. You are your biggest proponent. If you are not feeling well, if you feel anything out of the ordinary, it's better to feel awkward for 10, 15 seconds with your doctor than to live weeks or months being like, I have all these questions bouncing around in my head, right? Because it's only going to get worse. I can guarantee you, if you do not go talk to a doctor and either understand what's happening or at least be able to talk to somebody about that, you're just going to spiral. So continue to check yourself, especially as we all get older. More things start cropping up, whether it's cancer, stretching to be nimble, like whatever it might be. You always have to stay in touch with your body. Um, but you are the only person that can be the proponent for yourself. And if you are not comfortable talking to your doctor for 20, 30 seconds, then honestly you need to find another doctor that you are comfortable with so that you can have those conversations with them. Because it's better to have that peace of mind than just question everything day in and day out and have it wear on you because it's going to start affecting other parts of your life.
Yeah, that's good. It's good for people to know, that it is okay. Just go in there and ask.
Yeah.
Just ask questions,
I mean, They're doctors. They went to school for years for a reason, right? We did not go to school, so we are not doctor. We didn't go to medical school,
Yeah.
so we are not doctors. So like, go talk to the professional, right? And if you aren't comfortable with that person, find another professional, right? Get a second opinion. That's totally fine. Just because your doctor says something doesn't mean it's like rule of the land. You can get a second opinion. Um, but truly recommend finding someone that you are comfortable talking with about all aspects of your life
Yeah.
and making sure that you can have those quote unquote weird conversations with them to understand what's happening with you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's big. Some people would rather not know, and it's like, just find out.
Yeah.
Just go
I
have the
mean,
conversation.
the worst that can happen is they will confirm what you are thinking, which at that point they put you on a path to remediation. The best thing that can happen is they say it's not what you think it is, it's this instead, or it's nothing at all, right? And then
Yeah.
your mind is at ease.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. I know we talked about it earlier about what Dana meant to you in those early days and now. Is there a certain message that you would want to leave to your family that, maybe you don't get to tell them every single day? Maybe you do tell them every day. Is there just something that you would want to say to them?
I think for me, first and foremost is thank you for everything that they have done and everything that they give to me. I am so thankful for being put on this random rock in space with them and being able to spend this time with them. Um, they have truly made my life thus far so unforgettable. And uh, having them by my side is it. I know I keep saying this, but it is really, I feel so blessed to have them by my side. And I'm just so happy to like live this journey with them and try and find those small moments each day to say like, damn, I'm extremely lucky to be where I am.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, and I know we kind of touched base on that before, and just knowing you from over 20 years ago at this point in time, and it's just you've always been very honest and very real, even with the dark humor, which I liked. That's up my alley. You know what I mean? Like, I get it, and I'm like, yeah, I would
Yeah.
say that too in that
Yeah.
situation. You tend to tread softly in certain areas that is not your area.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, that's dude, that is amazing.
I
I also have to
appreciate
ask
that.
this too. I also have to ask this. Are you thinking sports for Adrian? Is it soccer? Is it football?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
are there any goals?
It's funny. So something that I've had to like learn as a parent is, I mean, every day is new. You're learning as you go, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's only so much that you can do before you're like put in it and you have to make decisions on the fly. For me, the way I view it is I am his guide. If he is interested in something, it is my job to guide him in that direction, right?
Yes.
So he's in soccer right now. He's doing soccer right now. I mean, he's 4 years old, which is essentially they all like play games and like kind of kick the ball around. It's really more about like, let's have fun with the soccer ball rather than being like, here's the drill, here's what you're doing,
Yeah.
now run. And them being like, I hate this, right?
Yeah.
It's about getting out on the field and having fun with your friends with a couple soccer balls around. If he shows interest in sports, I'm absolutely happy to like push him there. If he shows interest in arts, dance, karate, powerlifting, like whatever it might be, I view my job as his parent to guide him to what he finds interesting or what he shows interest in. Um, I don't want to be the one that's like, you have to go play soccer because I played soccer as a kid. Um, if he is interested in it, I absolutely will play with him outside. I'll play soccer with him. If he wants to play football, I'll let him play football. Um, it really just kind of like depends on what he's really interested in. I'm trying to let him like be his own human and just do the best I can to help guide him along the way.
That, because I've noticed as I talk to, and this is gonna go to my dry humor. I talk to good athletes, like great athletes such as yourself. I feel the same exact way. it's usually the people who don't play sports that are like, my kid, he's going to go pro. He's going to do this. And I'm like, dude, calm down. You didn't make it out of Little League.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
know, like there's such a similar path. And I have the story. So I have the story with Kayla that before having a child, my son was going to play baseball, football, basketball. If he got a B, he was going to do push-ups and sit-ups at home. We're going to teach discipline, hard work, all of that boot camp type of,
Yep.
mentality. And in the early days, he was going to be CJ. So his name was going to be Chris Curran Jr. And I
Yep.
was like, how far can we get this thing going? Could we get up to like a 10th? And then I woke up one day, probably 6 months into Kayla being pregnant. And I was like, get over yourself. Do you hear yourself? Because it was like partially a joke, but I'm like, I could pull this off. I could. And she had initially chosen the name Cole, and I wanted Christopher.
Yeah.
And this was during COVID. So I couldn't go in to her appointments with her. So I would be on like FaceTime in the car.
Same.
And we were driving to one of her appointments, and I referred to him as Cole. And I was like, do you think Cole's going to be moving? And like her face lit up type of thing. And it was
I love that.
and I had over time accepted like, he's going to be his own person. He doesn't need to play the same sports you played. If he wants to collect rocks, that's cool too. I'll just collect rocks with him.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, and it's turned into that beautiful relationship that we have where it's like, if he wants to play a sport, cool. Now here's the crazy part. So she's taller than I am. I'm not that tall. It's not tough to do. But she's taller than me. Her family's tall. So he's at 4 years old, he's like 4 feet tall, 50 pounds. So he's a bigger kid.
Yeah.
So he has long legs like her, but he's fast like me.
You're gonna be a sprinter.
And he's autistic, so he elopes at times, which means you call him and he will just sprint. Gone. Yeah. You're chasing this kid, and I'm like, this is like chasing a cheetah. So now I have to be on my game. I can't wear slippers in the driveway. If he decides to take off,
be ready.
Yeah, so like we went out and like fenced in our whole side yard because like my mom's not going to be chasing this little Usain Bolt throughout the yard. You know what I mean?
So I always joke with Dana. I'm like, I work out for 2 reasons. One is so that I can eat more food. 2 is so that I can always be stronger and faster than my kid, because they are not going to beat me at any sport. And watch, I'll eat my words in like 3 or 4 years. But my goal is to always be better.
Yeah. You gotta at least set the tone. Your day will come. Our day will come where that's the case, but you gotta hold on to it as long as possible. My father was beating us in races when he was 40. I think 45 years old. My oldest brother's 7 years older than me. So, yeah, I was probably 9 and my brother was 16, and my father was still beating us in races.
That's a solid stretch.
So yeah, he had done a solid job of like maintaining that dominance.
Listen, if I can make it to like 10, I will be happy.
If I can make it to 10. I know, seriously.
I'm almost halfway there.
But I mean, hey, dude, you're riding 180 plus miles. Like, you got a lot of us beat.
Yeah, I mean, I told this to a couple of people that donated this year. They're like, why the hell do you do this? It sounds like torture. And I'm like, yeah, it's easier than sitting down for another round of chemo. And like their face drops. But that's the dead humor in me where I'm like, I am joking around, but I'm also being kind of serious, where I would much rather, if you told me like right now you have to go bike 100 miles or sit in a chair for chemo, I'd be like, where's the freaking bike? I'll do it barefoot.
Yeah.
Like, tell me where it is. But yeah, it's, I mean, just a way to stay healthy and give back.
Yeah, that's good. Do you do any like public speaking?
Don't.
You should, man. That's me saying it from this side of the chair, obviously, but
Yeah. I mean, I have to be good at speaking in like groups and in front of like coworkers for presentations and stuff, because that's part of my job. I'm always talking to people. I have a very not necessarily public facing role, but I have a role that has to talk all day. Like I'm in meetings all day. That's all I do. So it
Man,
comes naturally to me.
how do you like that? Is that something that's different? Is it different moving from like, because usually athletes are, no, I want to be down on the ground. I want to be doing this. And is that like a different kind of role, like the transition from an athlete to more of like the
A
corporate
little
world?
bit. Um, so I'm in product management. I work in technology. But really what I do is I try to find problems in the business and then work with the team to solve them, right? So my role is working with all of the different people that are trying to solve that problem and pushing it forward to, get it released. So that's one of the things that I really like is I get to work with a lot of different people. My job, I truly would not be able to tell you like what I'm going to do tomorrow. Like, yes, I have meetings on my calendar and I have a semblance of an idea, but I might open my laptop tomorrow and something completely different might come up. That's what happened today is I opened my laptop, I had an email and I was like, well, this is my focus for the day. And everything else that I had on the docket is now pushed lower in priority. So that's one of the things that I like about it is it's always keeping me on my toes. It's always keeping me engaged, and I
Hmm.
have to be comfortable with learning on the fly, with being able to be uncomfortable and work in that ambiguity. A lot of people find it very uncomfortable, but it's a challenge, and it keeps me growing.
I like that as well. I've learned to try to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
It's hard.
It is because yeah, my joke with Kayla is because as I've mentioned it too, like I'm an introvert. I don't really talk to people all that much, even though I can. I can mask really well.
Hmm.
And that's the joke of like you don't like people. You barely do social media up until this point when I became more of an advocate for Cole and autism because I'm like, well, a lot of my friends don't know much about autism. Let
Hmm.
me somewhat, quote unquote, normalize it. So, and I opened up grounds on Instagram of like, I know you guys don't know, but ask me. And you don't even have to ask the right way. Don't worry about being like politically correct. Just ask me a question. And it opened up the floodgates. People were messaging me like, "Hey, my cousin's kid's autistic. What's one way that I can try to do this?" And it opened up
Love that.
that. Yeah, and I was like, oh man, I kind of started something for my little community of people that we went to high school with or college
Yep.
with and stuff like that. And then it just became more known. And then I would see people in public with him and they know don't just walk up and cause a scene because he can be disrupted. So you would start to see people like like giving me like sign
Yeah.
language, and I'm like, thank you, and then we would message later like, hey, thank you. They're like, yeah, I saw your post about like, don't come up and just give you this big old hug. So,
Yeah. Oh, that's so
you know,
awesome. I
that,
love I love that you are being that advocate and just putting yourself out there. Oftentimes it's the hardest first step, and so many people struggle with that. So getting over that hurdle and not only putting yourself out there, but continuing to do it, it's just so incredible to see. So thank you for doing that.
yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's not always the easiest putting a camera in your
Of
face and
course.
like I'm
Yeah.
gonna talk and do certain things, but that's the beauty of doing this is I can talk to the people I want. Like I can talk
Hmm.
to you. Like that's awesome for me.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
there's no list of people that I have to talk to. I can do it on my own schedule whenever and whenever you're available, type of thing.
Absolutely. It's
That's
been incredible to watch, honestly. It really has.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And dude, I
Of
want to
course.
thank you for being on tonight, man. It's great to be able to catch up. It's unbelievable to hear your story. I've known you for 20 years, but you don't always just get to sit and talk for an hour plus about, tell me some of the toughest, darkest parts of your life, and then tell me some of the beautiful things that you get to see every day with your child, type of thing.
Hmm.
And, I'm glad to be able to share that experience with you, man. Thank you for spending the time.
course, and I appreciate the opportunity. Truly, it's been incredible catching up. It's been incredible learning. So please continue putting the resources out there. I truly mean it. Like I'm going to continue watching, learning, reading. So please continue being that advocate. It's been awesome.
Thank you. And one last thing, where can people find you? Like whether it's social media, websites, where can people donate? I'm gonna link it. I'm gonna link it too when this goes up. But if you have a message or a location that people can find you, where is that?
Yeah. So if people have, first of all, if people have any questions about cancer, their journey, random things that I might be able to help with, if you need a referral to like Dana-Farber or doctors, like I am absolutely happy to be a resource for people. You can reach out to me on Instagram is probably the best place, PJ.Branco. I'm not as on Facebook, but definitely find me on Instagram at PJ.Branco. If people want to donate, again, truly any amount helps. If it's $5, I am so grateful. Every dollar goes to Dana-Farber. My PanMass ID is PB0321. So if you go to pmc.org and search PB0321, you can find me there and donate to PMC. And again, 100% of your donation, I know it doesn't sound true, but 100% of your donation goes to Dana-Farber and the Jimmy Fund.
That's incredible. When I saw that, I'm like, they did it again. you know, you know, they're unreal.
I know. It's wild.
They're second to none.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is perfect. PJ Branco, thank you, sir.
I appreciate it, CC.
you, man.
Thank you for the time.
Yep.